Things aren't looking too good. Are they gonna make it? What's gonna happen? Previously on Fallstreak. Was the tune Twinkle Twinkle Little Star the alphabet song or Baa Baa Black Sheep? Obviously it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star! Amy. Glazed hollow eyes that gazed through what they were supposed to focus on. Every person I had passed on the way looked the same. The fire, Idone, burn marks, Socotrine, Dia, I. Where's Idone? Did he survive? I pull her together by giving her something specific to focus on. Mallory shakes her head. One of his colleagues came by and I don't know what to tell the children. There's no need to tell them now. Worry about that later. How are the children's conditions? They're inside. Alouette hurt her leg, but other than that she's okay. Lynette and Dia though. I'll show you after I finish treating this man. Though her hands were trembling, she doesn't stop bandaging the wounded man before her. It was like a desperate attempt to remain moving, as if she'd collapse under the pressure if she stopped. It was a way of averting one's eyes from reality. Forget it. Give up on him. If you insist on trying to help, conserve your energy for someone who has a chance of making it. A ragged avulsion splitting the femoral. Limbs entangled at impossible angles. Copious amounts of blood. It was clear from a glance the man was already at death's door. Mallory hunches over and closes her eyes as her body shivers to a halt. For a moment I worry she'll restart her mindless act. You're right. But then she rises to her feet, determination filling her eyes. Let's head inside. A house painted over with silence. It was not long ago that laughter filled these halls. Guided by Mallory, I make my way to the room the children are in. Upon entering, a pitiful scene greets me. Laid out on the bed were Lynette and Dia, their bodies disheveled and bandaged, their breaths short and ragged. At the end of the room, Alouette was sitting against the wall in a state of stunned silence. Her leg was injured and she didn't look capable of moving, but unfortunately, she didn't appear to be burned anywhere. Have you noticed, Mallory? Yeah. Their burns won't stop spreading. The rainbow fire did this to them. Rainbow fire. Their burns were even more extensive than Kelly and Autune's. Several parts of Dia's back and face seemed afflicted, while burn marks were scattered over almost a third of Lynette's body. I'll find a way to save them. Mallory's eyes widen at my declaration. How? Information is the first thing we need. I'm going to scope out Nuez. If anyone knows anything about the Rainbow Fire, it's the ULs. Amy, are you sure? I won't fail. Kelly and Autune are in the same situation after all. That's not what I mean. You always like this. You always try to bear everything by yourself. It worries me. I just want to know you have allies. Lean on me. Let me help. No, you shouldn't come. I might turn dangerous and you'll only slow me down. Amy. You can help by stocking up on supplies. I also left Autune and the twins at home. I don't know how long I'll be gone, so I want you to check up on them. It still looks like she has something to say, though. I want you to believe in me, Mallory. Trust me. I clasp her hands. Okay. Just be careful, alright? Promise me you won't do anything too reckless. I promise. The two of us entwine pinkies like in the old days. We'll get through this, okay? Yeah. I'll be off then. As I turn to leave, my eyes catch on Alouette standing in the corner of the room. Though she said nothing, her face spoke for itself. It was as if she were lost in a sea of uncertainty. Before I know it, I find myself drifting over to her. Maybe it was because she reminded me of a certain someone, but somehow I felt a desire to not leave her alone. Alouette. I place a hand on her shoulder. Auntie. The adults are going to be busy from now on. We need you to watch the house and take care of Lynette and Dia while we're gone. It's an important job. Can you do it? She nods back at me, her expression regaining a bit of color. Alouette will do her best. It's odd that she says regaining her color because she can't see color. Giving people responsibility in a crisis forces them to compartmentalize. The feeling that one had some control over the situation, it was an essential illusion. Please make Lenny and Dia better. I will. Eyes full of innocent hope. With that image burned into my mind, I set off towards my next destination. I'm kind of surprised, since we're in the viewpoint of Amy. And she doesn't seem color, but she seems to see red. Why they allow color to show? Like, these are dull colors, we're saying. Okay, that's fine. But before, it was all bright and colorful, and she doesn't see that. So why are we seeing it? Aka knows. God damn it. Nay-whiz. A state-of-the-art hospital that had been renovated with the latest UL technology. For many in Socotrine, it stood as a symbol of hope. It served as the forefront of the Valoran Mastery's successful campaign to eradicate the plague after all. As expected, scores of people had already gathered in front of the main entrance. Slowing my pace, I drifted through the crowd, catching bits of conversation as I passed by. Heard? Seems I already know a way to treat the burns. Something similar happened back in their homeland. Calling it the Fire of Collapse. I know, but why did it just blow out the other day? Of about 20 people entered through the... I'm back yet? Apparently a cure already existed. It seemed too convenient to be true, though. Heeding my intuition, I make several rounds of the perimeter and commit the layout to memory. It seemed victims with conventional injuries were being accepted at side entrances. Only those with deviant burns were being admitted through the main one. Why is security so tight? Squads of the Socotrine Guard were stationed everywhere. Even the surrounding streets were heavily fortified. Considering the dire straits of the rest of Socotrine, it was odd they had mobilized such manpower here. As I finish the rotation around the complex, I overhear a commotion at the main entrance. Why can't I go in? My little boy is in there. We've already made this clear to you. Entry is prohibited to all but patients and medical personnel. Please, I just want to know if he's doing alright. Wait, is that them? Look, they're coming out. The crowd stirs as a column of people emerges from the hospital. All of them were scarred with etchings unique to the rainbow fire. However, their burns look different, don't they? They're really cured. Something wasn't right, though. Of the 20 that had supposedly gone in, only around half had returned. What do you mean? Can you just cure him like the rest? The mother from before was shouting frantically at the doctor accompanying the treated patients. Please understand, your son's injuries are very intensive in comparison. He's in critical condition and such we need to continue monitoring. Why won't you listen to me? He's such a skittish boy. Waking up in a place he doesn't know, surrounded by strangers, he'll be so scared. That's why I need to be there for him. I'm sorry, ma'am. Why are you apologizing? Just let me in, 'cause he's dead! Let me see him. The mother pushes past the doctor and tries to enter the hospital, only to be held back by the officer from before. Stop right there. Let me go. My son is in there. Gah. Officer clutches his wrist as the woman flails wildly under his grasp. She bit me. Unsheathing his sword, he slams his hilt against the woman's head and drives her to the ground. But even then, she doesn't stop trying to enter. How many times do I have to tell you before you get it through your head? You can't go in! Enraged, the officer begins to kick and stomp the crawling woman mercilessly. Let me see him! Let me see him! The woman breaks into sobs as she tries to shield herself from the crushing blows. Nell! Shut up, shut up, shut up! The officer brings his foot down hard, silencing her as she tries to call out a name. Stop it! With an angry growl, the officer's partner grabs him by the collar and shoves him away. But the woman had already been rendered motionless in the dirt. What the hell do you think you're doing? Shh, I can't stand people like her. They act like they're the only one hurting in the world. It makes me sick. Turning his back on the woman, the officer spits into the dirt. You can't take it out on the people. Many of them are going through the same thing, you know. Take a break and cool off. I'll get someone to cover. Doctor, can we get her a stretcher and take her through the mess side entrance? Yes, I'll get someone on it right away. Surprised she ain't dead. Meanwhile, a palpable tension had built on the onlooking crowd. How could he do that to her? Are they hiding something? Why can't we go in? The guards on post tighten their formation as they bear the brunt of the crowd's resentment. Attention all victims suffering deviant burns from the fire collapse. Please line up in an orderly fashion. Stretchers will be provided for the incapacitated. For the remainder of the day, I continue to observe the hospital's activities. However, the same trend only continues to persist. 30 people would enter, but only 14 would exit. 40 would go in, but only 20 would return. Like clockwork, the cycle repeats. Again and again. Again and again. So it's come to this. Entrusting Kelly and Atun's lives to odds I didn't understand was unthinkable. There wasn't anything else I could discern from outside, though. If I wanted to learn more, I would have to infiltrate the building. Aw yeah, here we go. I'll save my game. I don't want it pooping out on me. Callie and Autun were getting worse by the day. Autun's burn spread had already extended up to his forearms, and Callie wasn't faring much better. The reality weighs down on me as I make preparations to infiltrate the hospital. After smearing a layer of soot over my left arm, I wrap it up in bandages. Having observed their system several times already, I determined that only a basic preliminary check was given at the entrance. Though they'll probably look more intensively later, I'll already be inside by then. Upon completing my masquerade, I line up with the next wave of patients. When it comes to my turn to be inspected though, the doctor seems a bit wary. Did that hurt? He asked after poking my faux wound. I didn't feel anything. Thinking quickly, I answer in a way that seems unintuitive. Are you sure you touched me? Go on ahead. The doctor nods before turning his attention to the next patient. Areas marked by the rainbow fire seemed to lose all feeling after all. It was only when the deviant burn spread that the victim experienced pain. I learned that much from observing Callie and Autun. After passing the entrance checkpoint, our group gets cleared to enter. Several details stand out to me as we're led deep into the building. Though it sounded like there was significant activity in the distance, the area we were being led through was utterly empty. Even security detail was absent. It seemed the guard weren't authorized to enter this area. Moving around will still be difficult at this rate though. After being brought to a large junction, individual nurses began taking us one by one to separate rooms. The nurse assigned to me was wearing a surgical mask and had an average build. After leading me to a checkup room, she closes the door behind us. A raised stretcher, a counter with a faucet, and a closet. Perfect. Okay, ma'am. Would you please remove the bandage on your arm and show me your burn? She begins preparing a syringe on the nearby counter. What's in the syringe? This is a mild relaxant meant to calm me down before the procedure. It'll just be a little... After finishing her preparation, she tries to turn around. But I don't let her. I grab her by the wrist and press down on her shoulder blade, pinning her against the counter. What are you? Twisting the syringe out of her hand, I wrap my arms around her neck and cut off her circulation. Maintaining the choke until she goes limp, I insert the tip of the syringe into one of her bulging blood vessels and press down on the plunger. Mild relaxant was an understatement. I had known from the beginning the sedative was intended to knock out the patient. After all, none of the mended victims outside had been able to describe the treatment process. They had all said they'd fallen asleep and woken up cured. After stripping the nurse of her uniform, I tie her up using some cravats I find in the closet and gag her using the bandage on my arm. It's a little bit ironic that the uniform fits her. Then I place her in the closet in the recovery position, wash the soot from my arm, and don her uniform. Complete with mask and cap, it served as an excellent disguise. So far, everything had gone as planned. From here on out, I'll have to improvise. Bringing my ear to the door, I try to gauge the situation outside. It isn't until several months pass that a general bustle begins to pick up. Choosing that moment to act, I enter the hallway. Upon exiting, I find myself amidst a stream of nurses carrying stretchers of defiant burn victims. In addition to being rendered unconscious, the patients have been stripped naked, exposing their entries to plain view. I begin moving down the hall. Glancing the rooms that pass, I spot a lone nurse at the head of a stretcher. As if it were completely natural, I step in and grab the other end. 3, 2, 1. The nurse counts off before lifting in sync with me. Letting her take point, we join the flow of traffic outside. This one's a really young one, isn't she? Though it goes well initially, the nurse suddenly starts speaking to me. Yeah. I respond ambiguously as I look down at the patient on the stretcher. It was as the nurse said. The girl couldn't have been much older than Kalia, yet she was missing a leg, the deviant burn having spread over nearly half her body. I have a little girl just like her back home. The nurse falls silent, her gaze locked straight ahead. I hope she isn't flagged. Flagged. A term that could only carry one meaning. It was as I thought. The hospital was triaging its patients. My eyes drift down to the girl despite myself. Perhaps due to the nurse's influence, I can't but see Callie's image in the girl's light brown locks and weakly shut eyes. Everyone makes the same face when they're struggling to hold on to life while all they have left. I want to avert my eyes. For some reason, I feel compelled to look. After rounding several corners, we enter a large open area where we're directed to lay the stretchers down in a grid-like orientation. Taking my place along the line of nurses gathering on one end of the room, I watch on as a pair of important-looking people entered the area. You're certain there's no other way, Director? There is no doubt. It's identical to the 12th calamity that ravaged our homeland. A silver-haired woman with an air of authority was discussing something with the chief of the Socotrine guard. We can't save more than half of the afflicted? There must be some kind of mistake. Surely there exists UL technology that can treat it. The event burn cannot be treated by medical science. Not even amputation or debridement is effective. It's a death sentence that spurns the laws of the world. If we were even able to save half, it's a fortune our homeland never knew. Before we established this method, the case fatality rate was 100%. I see. I understand now why you're so quick to take the initiative. A clipboard-toting assistant runs up to the duo. Continue as planned. The subordinate nods and dispatches a group of doctors to inspect the patients lying on the ground. One by one, the doctors examine the patients before attaching colored tags to their stretcher. Black, red, black, black, red. There remains a problem, though. What do we tell the people? They are beleaguered and battered, and their frustration continues to grow by the hour. We may see violent protests if we continue to keep them in the dark. We alone will shoulder the truth. If a riot occurs, you have clearance to suppress it through any means necessary. Nearly our entire force has been mobilized here, but I fear even that might not be enough. There's no need for alarm. It's a last resort since they are poorly suited for non-lethal mass suppression. But the lost children are stationed here as well. They are currently carrying out patient acquisition operations at the moment. You even have a system for abducting non-compliant victims, huh? For the sake of saving as many possible, there's no cross we'll not bear. We'll go to any lengths toward that end. This is the burden of surviving what we did back in our homeland. This is the path we must take to save as many as we can. That's what we will do. Socotrine Guard will ensure operations in Akanuas are not hindered. Avoided people scattered by the upheaval of sudden calamity. When forced to confront the reality of their helplessness, they will search for release. Something, anything that gives them a means to resist their powerlessness. It's a fire that cannot be doused. Should it be forbidden from challenging the source of its frustration, its flames will simply regress in another direction and consume something else. You can't mean scapegoat. It happened often back in our homeland. If a scapegoat is created, do not try to save them. We made that mistake in the past. It's not something that bears repeating in Socotrine. Let them have their scapegoat. It's how deep the pus runs in the people's hearts. You understand? Yes. Having finished your business with him, the director proceeds deeper into the building. Haven't we had enough sacrifices already? Hunching over warily, the chief departs from the room. Before long, the doctors finish their examinations and the head nurse signals us forward. I find myself gravitating towards my precious pavement where I found the same nurse from before. Lifting the stretcher up, I began following a stream of nurses only to stop short from my partner's resistance. Black doesn't go this way. Letting her take point, we join a different procession of nurses heading deeper in. The ones with missing limbs are always flagged after all. Ah, even though I knew that. Put them in the incinerator! Several ramps later, we arrived in a middle underground room divided by a partition. There, we're directed to lift and place the patients on the other side. Upon completing our task, the majority of the nurses start to leave. However, my partner doesn't budge from her spot. The departing nurse places a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to watch. Partner shakes her head. I don't want to look away from what we're doing. When preparations are complete, a woman with the steely gray eyes enters the room. It was a director from before, accompanied by her clipboard-toting shadow. Begin. Our command, a click resounds through the room. A deep rumbling begins to fill the air. Beyond the glass, the air starts shimmering as several sections of the steel wall flare up. The room was eating it. It is an incinerator! I freaking called it. Did they intend to cook the patients alive? Unable to do anything but look on, my eyes stripped over the girl I had carried here. That's when I noticed her beginning to stir. Somebody's moving in there. Someone cries out in horror as they notice as well. The girl sits up. She looks at her hands. Then she begins to scream, loudly, at the top of her lungs. As the intense heat envelops her, the deviant burns on her hands begin glowing brightly before surging up her body in an accelerated rate. Shocked silence grips the room as the girl collapses and begins weakly crawling along the floor. She doesn't make it far before her body is consumed and she crumbles into glittering dust, but she continues screaming until the very last moment. At my side, I hear a hollow thump as my partner falls to her knees. No. I couldn't have botched the injection, could I? It was as if the room had been traumatized into silence. At long last, the rumbling stops. Hissing sound fills the air as the chamber begins venting. Director, why can't we terminate the patients before doing this? The deviant burn does not spread on cadavers. Only when it finishes consuming a living subject is estus vitae produced. I can't do this anymore. Please, no more. We're already short on staff. Even with everyone working around the clock, there are many that are lost due to the sheer lack of manpower. You know this already. This is the burden those in this post must bear. Where's the fun in that? I mean, we have to do it this way, nurse. It's more fun if they wake up. From now on, ensure you follow protocol and adjust the doses properly for pediatric patients. Nothing remained of the people beyond the glass but vaguely shaped piles of glittering dust. Unfairly, and without warning, their struggle had ended. I watch on as the dust swirls and coalesces into tiny orbs, one for each person that had been inside. When the room finishes cooling, we're directed to enter and collect them. The remains of the girl I had carried here. I pause before them and kneel down. The ones with missing limbs are always flagged, after all. If I bring Kelly here, this is what will become of her. This is how she will end up. The others as well. There's no guarantee they wouldn't be flagged. There's no other option. When no one is looking, I wrap 4 of the stones up in my handkerchief and secure them on my person. Even through gloves, they had a nauseating feel to them. The skewed ratio of those that returned. The unusually tight security. And the system of designating red and black tags. Everything made sense if these were the key to curing the deviant burn. But even upon learning the truth, my objective had not changed. My next course of action? Escape. I keep my eyes straight ahead as I traverse the halls of Socotrine's main hospital. Though exiting through a side entrance would have been ideal, they'd been thorough in sealing the area off from the rest of the hospital. Time was of the essence. Rather than waste time looking for a way out of the unfamiliar structure, I decided to escape via the main entrance. Kalia, Atoon, Lynette, Diamond. Held it, the key to saving them. Their lives, their futures. It was an unbelievably heavy weight. But even then, I won't falter. I'll carry it all. Forward. Forward. Forward! March! Intro's already in sight. Just a little more. She's gonna be busted. Exiting into the outside world, I find that night is set to descend before long. All I have to do now is pass through the checkpoint. Though freedom was within reach, I control my gait with rigid discipline. Just as I'm about to escape, though. Attention all channels. Halt all personnel attempting to leave the grounds. A reverberating voice breaks the glass lock on my heart. Use of force is also authorized. I stop in place. The world felt like it had gone deathly still. Hey you, stop right there. A fragile balance. Without hesitation, as he reaches out, I snatch his hand and dip, twisting his wrist back in one fluid motion. Shatter that balance. My steel flickers across his eyes as I bring him to his knees, blinding him. Gah! Strains of blood chase after me as I dash off, bobbing and weaving through the crowd of onlookers. Get her! Get out of the way! Screams and shrieks pierce the air as the guard detachment mobilizes to give chase. Having committed the layout of the area to memory, I knew that the closest array of alleys was to my right. Once I break free of the throng, I make a beeline for it. As I pass through the mouth of an alley, my ears catch an order being issued from behind. East perimeter, come in. Suspect is heading in your direction through the alleys. They're wearing a nurse uniform and are armed and hostile. Intercept them. After making several turns through the convoluted alley system at full speed, I cut down on my momentum and hone my hearing. I sound the pounding footsteps. Positioning myself behind the next corner, I wait until my target is on the verge of passing before leaping from the shadows of the high-angle feint. Caught off guard, he lifts his sword over his head to try and parry the foe attack. Before our blades make contact, I drop down and close in, pressing his elbow up to prevent him from bringing his blade to bear. Damn, she's a good fighter! Where'd she even learn this shit? Tracing a tight arc through his gullet, I plunge past him and start running in the direction he had come from. However, I find their coverage to be tighter than expected. I was getting boxed in. Eyeing a door at the end of the alley, rattle it, only to find it locked. It appeared to be an old spring-loaded mechanism without a bolt. Slipping my knife into the door slit, I pry the jammed striker plate as far from the frame as it'll go. Then, wedging a throwing knife into the keyhole, I yank around in an attempt to cause as much damage as possible. I hear a telltale clatter. I draw back and kick at the area next to the doorknob as hard as I can. The door swings open as the wood gives in and the lock falls apart. Footsteps on my 6. Someone's almost right on top of me. Leaping inside, I grab the door and swing it backwards with all my might. Rather than flee further in, I stand my ground. When the door swings open, my target's barreling figure, I whip a throwing knife at his face. Good. The target stumbles as the knife sinks in his eye socket. Right before he hits the ground, I step in and around his sword, my blade flashing through his carotid. Woo! This game's intense. It's a freaking visual novel, too! Trolling away to the sound of arterial spray, I press deeper into the visibly abandoned house. Beyond one of the windows was an open area. I snap the rusty fastenings open and dive outside as the sound of pounding footsteps echo through the building. As I roll back onto my feet, I retrieve a throwing knife and hurl it at the window as my pursuers tried to follow. Cry pain rings out as their lead doubles over, temporarily blocking the exit point. 2 throwing knives left. Locating a series of alleys leading away from the open area, I take off with due haste. Escape was imminent at this rate. I had scoped this area out thoroughly beforehand. However, several turns later, I come to a crushing halt. I had forgotten to take something into account. A wall of rubble that must have fallen from the surrounding unstable buildings was blocking my path to freedom. Though I tried to double back, I find myself cornered. It was an area in the process of clearing away debris, so there were few escape points. In that case, I'll have to fight. 3 enemies. 3 on 1? Handle it. Handle it, lady! Careful, she's dangerous. The guards ready their swords as they fan out to encircle me. Acting before they can completely surround me, I launch myself at one of the guards on my flank. That's lovely. Watch out! However, it is only a feint. At the sound of footsteps behind me, I twist and whip a throwing knife at the second guard as he reaches forward to cover his comrade. The knife lances into his arm, causing his sword to fly out before him. Reversing my momentum, I snatch the sword out of the air and sink it into his owner's neck as I drop back. I crouch and spin away as the third guard slashes a wide arc at my head. Anticipating a remise on my hind side, I slide and kick off the wall before me, crossing my opponent up as he lunges forward. As I do, I hurl my final throwing knife from the back of his knee, crippling him as I roll onto my feet, on my right. Detecting an oncoming attack from the first guard, I twist and try to parry. However, the angle is off and I end up being thrown off balance by the overpowering strike. In that split second, I knew I couldn't evade the next attack. Resolving to take the blow, I lunge forward in a desperate counterattack, gouging into my opponent's throat as the base of his blade cleaves into my flank. Crushing pain spikes through my body as I pull free and stagger away. I only managed several steps before collapsing, though. Damn you! As the last remaining guard limps over to me and raises a sword, a final desperate surge of energy grips my body. I deny it. Gripping my knife by the blunt of the blade, I must draw my remaining strength and whip it skyward. A cacophony of sound fills the air as the pulley system lifting rubble overhead gives. Though my target senses the debris plummeting towards him, due to his injured leg, he is unable to avoid being haplessly crushed. Gah. Cough, cough. Having dove away to avoid the carnage, I pull myself through the dust until I reach a wall. Cacophony. 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 Caca. That caco was so phony. Using it to support my body, I forced myself to my feet despite the searing pain. I'm gonna save this game. I'll save it every chance we get. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you enjoyed it, leave a like and hit the sub for more walkthroughs, playthroughs, and let's plays on the gaming experience.